So this past week, Donald Trump spent the entire time going crazy about a caravan of Central American migrants supposedly heading towards the United States. So I'm gonna play a short video that's just gonna explain what that's about.
So since 2014, the Mexican government has been cracking down on people traveling through to the United States. The crackdown has resulted in the detention and deportation of about 950,000 people. And according to a 2015 United Nations report, widespread torture of a particularly grotesque nature. So the nonprofit Pueblo Sin Fronteras has organized caravans annually to draw attention to the plight of Central American migrants and to the logic of safety in numbers. They believe that they will be less likely to be the target of abuse and assaults and theft and rape and things like that if they stay together.
And so first of all, let's just get some things clear. Most people that were in that caravan, they were planning to stop in Mexico in the first place. So they were never supposed to be coming to the United States at all. And then secondly, there's no such thing as like people just running to the border and jumping through. What actually happens in most cases is that people travel in these large groups or caravans for protection. And what they're doing is they come to the border and turn themselves in to border agents at checkpoints along the border. And what they're hoping for is to get asylum or get legal status, basically on the grounds that they're fleeing serious danger to their lives. And so it's not a situation where people are just running and hopping over some so-called border. People are actually going, checking themselves in and hoping to be allowed to stay because of the danger they face at home. It's, you know, overwhelmingly women, it's overwhelmingly children that are coming. And so this idea of like this band of, what's Donald Trump's word? Bad hombres just running towards the border, just coming, it's all based on a lie in the first place. So I think what we're witnessing is Donald Trump and the right wing use lies and scare stories to basically forward a racist and white nationalist agenda on immigration. And here's Donald Trump.
They're not putting their good ones. And remember my opening remarks at Trump Tower when I opened. Everybody said, oh, he was so tough. And I used the word rape. And yesterday it came out where this journey coming up, women are raped at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They don't want to mention that.
Disgusting, right? I felt that was disgusting. I'm sure you did too. But if you didn't, it's disgusting. I'm just letting you know. And so just further on this point about using lies to forward a racist agenda, a white nationalist agenda on immigration, this is the New York Times describing the way that organizations on the right typically cover these stories. The coverage tends to play on the fears that hiding among mass groups of immigrants are many criminals, vectors of disease, and agents of terror. And often the president, who announced his candidacy by blaming Mexico for sending rapists and drug dealers into the United States, acts as an accelerant to this hysteria. Here's the New York Times in the same article. The Gateway Pundit, a website that was most recently in the news for spreading conspiracies about the school shooting in Parkland, Florida, suggested the real reason the migrants were trying to enter the United States was to collect social welfare benefits. I'm just going to try my best to sort of explain their ridiculous logic. Donald Trump and the right wing are fearful of the fact that white people are really a shrinking demographic and the future of the United States is multiracial, right? And so I think because of that, they tend to look at our immigration policies and say that this is causing the sort of browning of America by letting in all these Latinos, and you know, we need to shut up our borders, we need to close it up tight so that we can stop this, right? That sounds ridiculous because it is ridiculous, but here's the thing, there's still a majority of white people in this country, and so when enough white people subscribe to white nationalism, we might fuck around and have a whole president that's participating in that. And, you know, when we have this at the highest levels of power, that equates to really more human carnage. Unfortunately, this is not just like batshit ideas on the right anymore, but this is someone really enacting this and making this the policy of the United States, these sort of white nationalist inspired ideas. What this means is that at a time where border crossings are actually at its lowest level, we're spending an additional $1.7 billion that we don't have on enforcing a border fence. And Trump is calling for 25 billion more, okay? And so at a time where, you know, border crossings are low, we're wasting resources like sending the National Guard down there to do what? I just want to make one more point that I think is important. A lot of conservatives and people on the right like to make fun of the way that left-leaning people use identity politics and really center identity politics. But I think it's important to point out that this is the bread and butter of the radical right wing, I think. Identity politics, using race and using these things that speak to people's most tribal thoughts. I think that's what the right wing is known for. And I think this is only an example of that. And so we like to use identity politics to say, hey, we need to consider everyone's place. And they use it in a completely different way.